Okay, so let me open here a new heading. See that I'm writing also with this hashtag, and this is a comment that we'll get in a moment. But here, if I go here and turn this into a markdown, I happen to have this heading, which is functions, which is what we are going to deal right now. So functions are something that we call in between parentheses with a keyword before. Don't confuse with the parentheses being used as the order of operations as we have right here. So the function, for example, abs, returns the absolute value of something. Notice that this function is also green. This is because it's a Python-based function. Now, if I open close parentheses, I can pass arguments inside this function. That means that this function, this is like kind of a machine. I have a function where I feed some input. That function calculates something and does something with that input and spits an output with the result of what that function should do. This is a really important concept here in Python because most of the code is around functions, and probably when you see more advanced code in the internet, you'll see that everything is enclosed inside functions because that's mostly how things work here in Python, and functions can make you reutilize the code. So this works similar to when you type something in a calculator, click the ABS, and you get the return of the absolute value of that number that you have typed. But now something interesting. Let me type, for example, abs minus 10 will yield 10. Okay, so it's the absolute value of the number that I've put in my argument. So I have here the argument. I know that this abs function gets a number, and I can feed any number inside the abs function, and as a return, I'll have 10. Of course, you may be wondering, what can I do with this 10? Don't worry, when we get to variables, this will be much more meaningful, and applying these functions will make a bit more sense. But we have these functions are cool, but imagine that you try to run something that's not expected. For example, the absolute value of the letter A. So we'll get on how we can declare this that I have right here, which is a string, just using the quotes. But if I try to get the absolute value of an A, this doesn't make much sense. There's no absolute value of the letter A because it's not a number. Let's run this. We have type error. Now this is our first mistake here in Python, and as you can see, we have no return in Jupyter Notebook. What we have is this type error, which means that our code has some issue. This is of course not the type error itself, but probably other errors. This is one of the most common things that you will see either in Jupyter or base Python, so get ready for it because you will do, of course, a lot of mistakes, just like I do in my life as a Python coder. The difference between starting and an experienced programmer is that the experienced programmer knows how to debug its errors more faster. That's a really relevant difference between being experienced and starting, so don't worry because you'll make a lot of mistakes, and that's completely normal, expected, and part of the learning journey. Now, as you can see here, let's read the mistake. So bad operand type for abs str. This is just gibberish from Python, but what it tells us is that I don't accept str, which are strings, meaning text, inside this operator. So you need to give me a number. This will make a lot of sense when you get to data types. So just know that when you do things that functions aren't expecting, then you'll get an error, and that's what we are having right here. Recapping, we are using abs, which is a function called absolute that receives a number and gets and returns the absolute value of the number. And you can check, for example, I'm going to Google for you to see, and here I'm going to search abs Python function. And we have here, for example, in the Geeks for Geeks website, which is one of the most famous ones, you have here, for example, Python abs function is used to return the absolute value of a number. It will remove the negative sign of the number. It's exactly what we've seen. You have here other functions that you can use, for example, the round, the floor, the seal. We are going to use some of them throughout the course, but of course you can check Python basic functions and see the list of functions that Python has, at least these basic ones. For you to check a more extensive list, try it for yourself because you'll get familiar with these more basic functions. We'll explore a lot of them throughout the course, particularly when we are exploring each data type. We'll apply certain functions to it. Just do this if you are curious of other functions right now. If not, you can just wait for subsequent lectures. Another thing is that right now this function only takes one argument and it takes no keyword argument. So I can't name anything in this argument. I just have to pass, for example, the number. But I know that the argument may be called, for example, x. And I can do the following. X equals minus 10. Let's see if this works. It doesn't work because ABS takes no keyword arguments. So normally in most functions that you'll develop on your own and functions that you'll get from libraries or packages, those functions have keyword arguments, meaning that you can either enter the objects by the order they are in the function or you can use the keyword arguments. Okay, and now you might be thinking, can I mix functions with the other things that we learn from using Python as a calculator? We can. For example, if I go to 1 times 100 times ABS 2 or minus 2, well, I'm expecting that 1 will be multiplied by 100 and 100 will not be multiplied by minus 2, will be multiplied by the absolute value of that minus 2, meaning the 2. Let's see, so I'm expecting 200 as you can see. So the mathematical operations work and the functions are evaluated before evaluating the multiplication and the adding and all that. Okay, so that's really important. Now if I go here, I can just, for example, 1 plus 100 times, or let me put 2 plus 100 times ABS minus 2. Let's see, we'll have 202 because this bit is being evaluated first and then this bit is evaluated. But of course, I can override it with the parentheses. The result, of course, changes. Okay, but the ABS is here just like any other number. Having this or having this is exactly the same. Okay, the thing is that ABS minus 2 evaluates to 2, and then what Python does internally is to replace this ABS minus 2 by 2. This is how all functions with numbers and all that we will calculate work. Python basically replaces that function with the output of that function and does the rest of the calculation. And before we leave to the next lecture, let's know how we can understand what this function does. And we can do that with the help function. Help is a function in itself. And if I call help, open close parentheses, and put the name of another function inside the help, I'll get in return the description of what that function does. This only works, at least as expected, as always, with code that's already Python code. With some libraries, there might be functions that you can't access the help with. Best practice is that you can, but that can be guaranteed. Don't worry about this, but just know that for all these functions that we will study from Python base, those functions are available here in the help. And here what we have then is just check this. ABS x and the bar link to the right, no worries, return the absolute value of the argument, which is this argument right here, dx. I can also do, for example, help round, and this number, round the number to a given precision in decimal digits. This is another function that we can use here in Python that we will explore when we get to the floats data type. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've understood how we can use Python as a calculator back and forth. I recommend that you experiment with different numbers, different mathematical expressions, and even checking on the internet different functions for yourself to see like what's the impact of having that in Python code. Congratulations, because here you are doing your first Python script using this code that we are doing. So now we've grasped Python basic data types, which are strings, integers, and floats. There's also another one that I call the Python atomic data types. They don't have like really that official name, but I like to call them in that way because those Python data types don't contain other data types. There are other data types such as objects, as lists, dictionaries, and all that are sometimes in the same bucket as these data types, but I like to separate them because those data types can include other data types inside. I like to explore these atomic data types first, which are the integer, numbers 1, 2, 3, so on, floats, which are numbers with decimal points, strings, which are pure text, and also Boolean, which are true or false variables. We'll explore those 4 data types in the next lecture here inside our Python introduction. So this will be our first approach to these data types, then we'll have a deeper dive into these data types in subsequent sections. So explore a bit of Jupyter Notebooks and Python code on your own, and I'll see you in the next lecture.